Okay, Dave Landry here from DaveLandry.com. Thank you, Dave Cosminer, for having me back once again. We used to do quite a few of the crowd forecast news shows together back in the day.
Yeah, it's great to have you back.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And obviously, want to thank all you guys and girls for attending today. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. So, here's a disclaimer screen. I'm actually going to come back to this in 1 second. There's obviously the long form of this, but Greg Morse, one time I was sitting next to him and somebody was giving a presentation and they were making a lot of predictions. And he leaned over and said, all predictions are about the future, and a lot of stuff can happen between now and then. I think that's the best disclaimer you could ever put out. And I'm going to come back to that. And I'm going to get into the live charts in here just for a couple of minutes. And then obviously, any trades you guys want me to look at, I'll be happy to do that. Here's all my contact information. Feel free to grab a screenshot of that. I do a weekly webinar, by the way, every week or most every week on Thursdays, depending on holidays, obviously. DailyLandry.com/webinar for more on that. Anyway, I just want to show you real quick, kind of the crux of what I do. I mostly trade pullbacks, and I'm looking for a strong trend. Now, in this case, this was an IPO that took off that was looking really, really good a while back, and then it had a nice deep pullback. And here was a recommendation down here, NNE, and this is based on a 100K account. The entry was here, the stop was here, and the initial profit target was up here. Now, in every trade, I'm going to enter above the market just in case the market does not rally. And by the way, markets are markets. My bread and butter is stocks, but I do trade crypto and sometimes other markets too. And I'll show you a few examples of that in just 1 second. Anyway, so that was the trade, and this was one of our bigger winners. Unfortunately, it didn't keep on keeping on. When people often ask me, what's my holding period? And I often say 10 years, hopefully much longer. I like to stay with a position as long as it moves in my favor, but I also take partial profits just in case it doesn't. That's the actual trades to mimic my trading service. The results I'll show you in 1 second for this trade are hypothetical, but that was real trades that I actually took. So when I recommend something, I actually put my money where my mouth is and take it. Now, in this particular case, the initial profit target was there, and I sell half. And once you sell half, you bring your stop up to break even on the remainder. I realize there's a lot of information. I'm just kind of giving you a sampling. If you go to my YouTube channel, there's hundreds, if not thousands of hours on all of this stuff, or you can go to my website and get a lot more information. Anyway, so we ended up taking partial profits. In this case, I got a little bit less than $1,000, which I was looking for on that half of the trade based on a hypothetical 100K account. But in this case, in my model account, I do actually take these trades once again. And then I got stopped out, and we gave up a lot more than I really wanted to on this particular trade. I didn't want to give up anything, obviously. But, and I go into that in a lot more detail. If you go to my YouTube channel, this video is from last summer where I covered this in a lot of detail. It's in the playlist, Dave Landry's The Week in Charts. Watch as many as of those if you could stand to wrap your head around the methodology. But anyway, overall, the trade did okay. 47.11, and again, that's based on 100K account size. So decent trade, better than poking the eye. But again, when I get into a trade and I take those partial profits, ideally, I want to hold on to that trade for a long, long, long time. And occasionally we'll hold on to a trade for years. Now, I'm slotted as a swing trader. And I think at least one of my books has the title Swing Trading in it. And I'll give you all three of my books. I'll give you that link in just 1 second. But anyway, this is how it worked out. And ideally, again, this is where the real money is in that second loaf of the trade, and we want to try to hold on as long as possible. So again, I'm slotted as a swing trader, but I am willing to hold on as long as the trade moves in my favor. Now, here is a crypto trade. Now, in crypto, I do trade pullbacks too, but a lot of times when they're moving and really moving these altcoins, I have a better name for them, but I guess I better keep it PG-13. Sometimes you could just buy them when they're going straight up. So if you come in, and Bitcoin could be a real good bellwether here, and we'll go to live charts briefly. I want to cover a few things in stocks briefly, and then we can take a look at crypto real quick. And by the way, if you want to analyze any market, be it crypto or stocks, I'd be happy to do that for you once we get through this brief little presentation here. But anyway, this was entered right here, and I just bought it because it was going straight up. And it's a little scary buying markets that are going straight up. I don't recommend you doing this in stocks sans a rip-roaring bull market, or unless you're going to buy a very huge portfolio, and that's just buying the new highs. And I'll show you something that I've been experimenting with, something I did years ago and started doing just recently, and it's been a lot of fun. I know you probably want to party with me. Anyway, in crypto, in stocks, the initial profit target varies. And you can go to davelandry.com/archives for a lot more on that. Got to mute the phone. My apologies. Anyway, if you go to davelandry.com/archives, you could get all the trades. Nobody ever calls me. It's a telemarketer. You can get all the trades and warts and all. And that's davelandry.com/archives on that. Now, when you go through the archives, you'll notice that a lot of times the profit target might be 15% or it might be 30%, depending on the volatility of the stock. Right now, with these altcoins, because they're a very inefficient market, I'm just using 20% to keep the math easy. And so the idea is to sell half of your shares at 20% and then get the stop to break even. So you're free rolling, so to speak, on the remainder of the position. And the worst you could do, especially like in stocks where you have gaps, would be stands a gap, would be to break even on the remainder of the trade. And I call it a better than a poke in the eye trade. Again, I know I'm throwing a lot out there. If you go to my YouTube channel, I talk a lot slower and I have a lot more there, youtube.com/Dave Landry. But anyway, you can see that, as I said a second ago, I'm willing to stay with a position as long as it moves in my favor. And it stopped going up for a while and it went mostly sideways, but it really hasn't done anything wrong just yet. So far, I'm going to hang on to this one. Now, if it starts coming back in, obviously, if it comes back in too far, it drops too much below the 30 exponential moving average, which I'll talk about in just 1 second, and then I'm looking to bail out. By the way, I really don't use that many indicators. I'm going to show you a few today. The reason I have developed indicators is it does help people to see trends and be it up, down, or sideways. And in some cases, it makes it a lot easier to scan for setups. Now, by the way, every day I look at about 2,000 stocks roughly. It depends on what the database produces, but I look at a lot of stocks and that gives me a feel for what's going on. And right now, and we'll look at the live charts in 1 second, I'm not too excited about the market. I'm maybe cautiously optimistic at best, but a lot's going to have to happen for me to get excited about stocks overall. Anyway, I have a simple little system. I call it TFM 10% system. TFM stands for trend following moron. That's a nickname that somebody gave me many years ago. And they weren't very kind when they did it. It was an insult, but I realized that when I tried to outsmart the markets, I lost a lot of money. But if I just followed along like a good little trend following moron, I tend to do okay. And that's why I think my TikTok handle is trend following moron. My X handle is T following moron. So in case you're wondering about that. Anyway, these zones in here, just real quick. This is the percentage away from the 50-week closing high. And when you get 10% or more away from the 50-week closing high, that's usually a danger zone for the market. So in 2025, I'd like you to watch that 10% zone. And the sell signal would be when you drop below 10% of that 50-week closing high, and this is a weekly chart, and the 50-week simple moving average. So 54.82, if we drop below that, I would just get out of the way. My thinking is get out the way, because if a market is going to lose half of its value, it's going to lose 10% first. And for stocks, that's a good round number. And we did, or I did, back test this at Bitcoin. And it's a long story to get into all of it. But if you watch the last week of charts on my YouTube channel, I walk you through how that worked with that one. Anyway, the buy signals are a little more stringent. You need 2 bars of Landry light, which I'll show you in just 1 second. That means the lows are greater than the moving average. And that would have been your buy signal back there. And you'd still be long and stay long until you get stopped out. Now, I don't do a lot of this longer term trend following, but I do like to have a system like this in place just so I can see what's happening in the markets and have a more of a quantitative feel. Everything I do is discretionary, but I do like a couple of these things, like this little indicator I'll show you in 1 second, and this TFM system to let me know where the market is and whether or not I need to be getting out of the market. I also, my girls, I have two daughters, and they have some leftover college funds. I actually trade the system for them with their college funds to keep them out of trouble. And the system is designed to avoid the so-called diaper change moment, and that's when the market just kind of comes unglued and everybody's freaked out because they're just hanging on and watching it drop. But anyway, I got in this one way back here. The stop would be way down here, which is a long ways away. And when I got in, I didn't think about how bad the drawdowns would be. But with longer term trend following systems, you will have really abysmal drawdowns. But anyway, this is roughly a mark to market here. And it's only bought 100 shares, and this stupid little trade is up $20,000. I just did it for S and G's to see what would happen. Anyway, the other thing I've been working on a little bit lately is the Landry 100. That system, I forget when I exactly published it. It was probably been published for about 5 years, and it's done really well since, for what it's worth. But the Landry 100 is just a momentum list, and I'm just buying stocks at new highs. And like I said earlier, you could do this in the altcoins when they're really, really, really moving and going straight up. And you could do it in stocks two ways. One, if we get another market like 1999 where everything's just going straight up, and two, if you buy enough of them, and this is a little harder to do for a private trader like myself. And so I haven't, again, I just started experimenting with a little bit with real money, but it's been a lot of fun. But what's amazing is a lot of times new highs will beget new highs. And again, just don't run out and buy new highs unless you're buying a lot of stocks in a crazy bull market, or if you're in the altcoins and they all seem to be going up at the same time. But this was put on back in on 9/11/24, and you can see since then it's 258%. And there's some very nice triple digit gains in here. And this is kind of amazing that I'm just buying these new highs and a lot of these stocks that are really speculative. So that's a Landry 100. So I guess the $64,000 question is, where is the market headed in 2025? Is it going up? Is it going down? Or there's one direction that people never think about, and that would be sideways. And the answer is, I don't know. As I said earlier, all predictions are about the future, and a lot of stuff can happen between now and then. So I'm a trend follower. If the market's going up, I'm going to be long. If the market's going down, I will tend to be short. And let me just show you just real quick what's happening in the markets. And the thing about markets is obviously that things change really quickly. But right now, I'm a little concerned about the overall market. And if I can get this shared, let's see, new share. And we'll go to here. So one thing that has me really concerned, and if we take a look at the S&P 500, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ look okay. Unfortunately, though, internally, the market is not looking so hot. Now, again, I like to look at a lot of stocks, and that's where I'm getting that feel from. And I also look at a lot of sectors too. So S&P looks okay. It's below the 500, I'm sorry, the 200-day simple moving average. I'm sorry, 50-day simple moving average. Hopefully we could edit all that out. And also these moving averages, it's a 10 simple, a 20 exponential, a 30 exponential. Especially when the market gets iffy, coming off of all-time highs, I like to pay attention to the order of those moving averages. And we have a little time at the end of the presentation. I'll come back to that. But those are what I call my bow tie moving averages. NASDAQ composites, not a bad day today. Looks pretty good longer term. Notice the lows greater than that 50 simple for a long time. Notice it's back above the 30 exponential moving average. That's its orange line. And notice that these bow tie moving averages are trying to flatten out and turn back up. So that so far is a good thing. Rusty 2000, not so much. This thing has just been abysmal forever. And you'll notice every now and then I put these horizontal lines in my chart. I like to look at where we are now and look back at time. That's probably the best indicator in the world, just to see if we're going up, down, or sideways over the various periods. Okay, if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to start fielding those. If you want to look at some stocks. The one thing I've been noticing with the overall market that I want to show you, though, is the leadership has been really narrow. The MAGS has been doing really well, but that's only 7 stocks. And I think only 6 of these stocks are doing okay within the MAGS. But a lot of areas like major drugs remain in a downtrend. Semiconductors have been flat forever, although they're getting a little bit of a bid today, and that's kind of nice. I'd like to see them get out of this range. But for now, the trend is sideways in the semiconductors, and there's a ton of areas home builders, materials, the list goes on and on, that are pretty much going straight down as of late. And some of the previously stronger areas like financials are beginning to roll over. Okay, Dave, is there a chat, or are you going to ask the questions? Is there a chat for me to look at, to watch, or how do we go from here? And while I'm waiting on that answer,
Yeah, um yeah, you should be able to see a chat
oh, here we go.
screen.
Let's see.
Yeah, Alt H is
Oh,
the
okay, gotcha.
shortcut.
Okay.
So yeah, everyone enter symbols for
Yeah, just
Dave.
enter symbols and we'll take a look at it. In the meantime, let me just shift gears real quick. So I think what's going to have to happen with the overall market is it's really going to have to begin to take off for me to get excited. More importantly, the breadth is going to have to improve. I'm going to have to see a lot of stocks begin to rally. And what's concerning is right now we're not seeing that. And I hate to use the word hope. That's probably the most dangerous word to use in this business. But my hope is that if we can make new highs in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, which aren't that far away, then maybe a lot of these sectors will begin to wake up. Maybe the institutions will come in and bottom fish, so to speak. Let's take a look at Bitcoin real quick, and then we'll jump into those individual stocks. Yeah, keep them coming. I'll be happy to get through as many as possible, as quickly as possible. So let me get a share over here to this screen here. So what I have here, and I might have to move it over. So what I have here is indicator I call Landry light, and that's simply the lows are greater than the moving average. And with my indicators, I see indicators more as illustrators than indicators because they're not really indicating anything per se, but they help you to see what's going on in the chart. And it's like, okay, well, wait a minute, we're below this 30 EMA. We got above it a little bit. You see the green down here. So we're mostly sideways. And then when you look at your sideways lines, put your crosshairs in here, you can see we haven't made any forward progress all the way since way back here in the S&P 500. So that's a little bit concerning. Now the question is Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, I like to use this Landry light indicator quite a bit in Bitcoin. As long as it's green, things are good. And then this pattern right here, notice this little pullback. That's what I call a Landry light pullback. That's one of my favorite patterns right now. You're just looking for these green bars down here, 10 or 20 bars, and then you're looking for a pullback to the moving average. And you can see we've had almost all green, and we just had one bar of no Landry light when it touched here. And then now we're a little sideways. So for me to get excited about Bitcoin, it would actually have to go up and make brand new highs. As long as it's hovering around this 30 EMA, and you can see it's green, red down here, I would leave it alone. So green and red is choppy. Like back here, you see green and red, green and red, green and red, and then it's some more red. This is the market you want to avoid. You want the market to look like this. You want lots and lots of green for Bitcoin, okay? All right, let me jump back to stocks real quick. And let's see. Then Singh wants to take a look at ABBV. So let's jump into that. Now, by the way, most of my analysis is done on blank charts. Okay, so the big glaring problem that I see here is you've got this big, huge gap down. So I would totally avoid this market. You want markets that are in a nice, solid trend and have begun to pull back. You don't want to see something that looks like electrocardiogram and something with a big, huge gap. So I would leave that one alone. C, Citigroup. Now, Citigroup looks a little bit better because the gap is in the right direction, but it is a little bit wide and loose. And also, one thing I like to look at is historical volatility, which you could probably get in nearly all chart packages. I think in stock charts ACP, it's called Landry volatility, but that's actually historical volatility. I didn't create that formula. But anyway, I would avoid this one. Shorter term, again, the net problem, it's going mostly sideways. Longer term, it's an uptrend. It obviously looks a lot better than the ABBV, but the volatility is a little bit on the low side in this one. I tend to trade a little bit higher volatility stocks. So I would pass on that one too, but it certainly looks a lot better than the other ones. Now, energies, getting asked about energies. Energies have been abysmal as of late. But what's kind of interesting is some individual issues are looking okay. So take a look at Energy's overall basis the XLE. So far, they're just pulling back. They're remaining in a pretty solid downtrend. So I'm not that excited about them now. But what's interesting is you take a look at like EOSE. This is in the Landry 100. This one has been going up. Okay, so that's a good looking stock on a pullback. That might be worth trading. CVX in the energies like CVX. Yeah, okay. Once again, now this would be a short for me. This is actually a pretty good looking short. I'd prefer it if it was coming off of all-time highs. It's a little too wide loose. I probably won't short it, but initially I actually got kind of excited because I'm like, how did I miss this? It's in a nice downtrend. It's pulled back. I'd say if you want to go after this one, entry about 144, stop yourself out around 150, and then about 6 points would be your initial profit target. So I don't know if you look at a short or not, but that looks more like a short than a long, and that's actually okay. Okay, here we have another case. What's stochastics? Anybody know what that is? Accidentally fat finger that. First of all, this is going mostly sideways. Second of all, you've got this huge gap here. So I would immediately toss that one out. Okay. Again, you want something that looks kind of trades cleanly, and you want to look to play the pullback. Now, this one kind of looks like a classical technical analysis type of pattern where you've got a head and shoulders, and you've got this big base for the head and shoulders. So this looks bearish, if anything, but it's again wide and loose and all over the place. So I would leave that one alone. Oh, you're very welcome. IMVT. Now, this again looks more like a short. We did close this big gap down here. It's kind of wide and loose and all over the place, but shorter term, it's sold off fairly hard and pulled it back. And then a little bit longer term, I'm known for drawing the big blue arrows. So the big blue arrow is headed lower on that one. Now, one thing I forgot to show you is earlier, I mentioned that if you needed my books, I'll give them to you for free. So let me show you that. And if there's any more stocks, I'll be happy to take a look at them for you. So this is here's the link right here. And if you go here, you can get all three of my books for free. Any more stocks you guys want to look at? ENVA, did we cover that one yet? I don't remember. Let's go back to the charts. And let's see. Oops, shared. ENVA. Yeah, lightning round here. Yeah, too many days in the pullback. It's kind of rolled over. So I would avoid that one. Mara, M-A-R-A. Thank you, Dave, for sharing that link. These crypto stocks haven't been doing so hot, or a lot of them, like Mara. So right now, this is kind of electrocardiogram. I would stay away from that one for now. Let me take a look at like HUT for you. So let's see if that's a little better. Yeah, I wouldn't buy HUT either, but you can see it looks a heck of a lot better. Notice you've got a nice uptrend and a deep pullback. Super volatile stock, so be careful there. But if you had to buy one of these, I would buy this over a Mara FSLR. Again, we've got the sideways chop. It's kind of all over the place. For the most part, it has worked its way lower, but it's really, really, really choppy. So that would be one that I wouldn't be too excited about. BTDR is a minor. Let's check that out, BitDeer. Yeah, there you go. So you want something. This looks okay. Let's spec this chart out a little bit. I would have preferred a slightly deeper pullback, but this is pretty good. Okay. Notice that you had a gradual trend. Notice it began to accelerate higher, and then notice it pull back. I actually would have liked this one to pull back a little further. Unfortunately, it didn't, but that's an okay looking stock. I would keep that in my watch list. The entry probably would have been somewhere around this gap here, and then stop yourself out now below this low. But that looks okay. That's I would put that in your momentum list. I wonder if I have it in the Landry 100. Let me see. Landry 100. I might not. Let's see. BTDR. No, I do not. Probably got taken out of that. Okay, any more? We got a few minutes left. I'll be happy to take a look at them. In the meantime, we can take a look at the market. So this is what I was saying earlier. When you start taking a look at some of these areas, like the home builders, for instance, they've pretty much gone straight down. And then we could put the moving averages in. Let me show you bow tie moving averages quick. Solana, yeah, from crypto, be happy to do that. Just takes a second to get this all shared, so bear with me. Let's see if we can get to it. Maybe it's here. Okay, Solana. Okay, Solana, I wouldn't buy it at this juncture. Now, notice back here, for instance, oops, notice back here, you've had nice little Landry light developing, nice little pullback to the moving average. Longer term, it's kind of all over the place, but with these altcoins, because they're so inefficient and kind of go all over the place, I tend to be a little more lenient. Right now, I wouldn't see that as a buy. It would probably have to make new highs for me to get excited about it. Let's see if there's anything else in crypto real quick. So when these things are really moving, you could just sort by percent change and sometimes buy the ones that are going, that one looks a little thin, that are going straight up. And by the way, never buy anything that's trading below the 30 exponential moving average. That in and of itself will keep you out of a lot of trouble. And let's see if we could find you one in here real quick. Probably not in this list. But you'll notice in some of these, they'll lose half or 80 or 90% of that value below that 50-day. I like to see XLE. Okay, we can take a look at that. Yeah, XLE is looking pretty ugly. How's that for an oxymoron from a trend following moron? Let's see. XLE. Yeah, XLE, you can see pretty serious downtrend. So far, just pulling back. If anything, that looks more like a short than a long. If we put the moving averages in, notice these bow tie moving averages have all flipped over to the downside. And that's something, and I'm going to have to do this real quick. Hopefully, I can get it quick enough to show you. That's something that I really pay careful attention to right now is the proper order of those moving averages. Let's see. Okay, let's see if it's happening. Okay, so let's go to, what was that, XLE? And the moving average proper order is just a 10 simple, a 20 exponential, and a 30 exponential. And this is a free add-on that's in Stock Charts ACP. It's also in MetaStock built in. I think it's called Dave Light there or Daylight, one of those two, but I've changed the name to Landry Light. I'm sorry, this is the bow tie proper order, but the other indicator is in MetaStock, as is bow tie proper order. Notice it's red here, so green means the market's generally in pretty good shape. Yellow means caution, and red means it's in trouble. So I would right now pay careful attention to that. I'm just pulling up a random one like the home builders, but notice that we had, classical technical analysis, a bit of a double top in here. And then what happened afterwards, these bow ties came together and flipped over to the downside. You can see red in Tarzan speak, bad, green in Tarzan speak, good, and then yellow is be cautious. Also, you definitely want to make sure you're paying attention to the chart and look to see if it's been going sideways during that period. I'm nearly out of time, but let me just see if we could pull this up real quick and I'll show you what I mean. So something like Bitcoin, for instance, notice that when it's green, the market tends to do well. When it's yellow, like right now, we're kind of in a caution phase, okay? And when it's red, you want to avoid the market, okay? So look back here. You were mostly red throughout this entire spill. And that's the time where you want to be out of the market. And again, if you want to take a look at that little system that I did, little free system, you can look at my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Dave Landry. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending. If there's any follow-up questions, shoot me an email at david@davelandry.com. See that link that David Cosbiner just put in here. If you want some more information, you want to get my books and everything else. Everybody have a great new year. Happy trading. And thanks again, and may the trend be with you. Thank you so much.